That's right, kids. Family Medicine's leading voice in social media in my own mind. This is the Family Medicine Rocks podcast on a Sunday night here on the Blog Talk Radio Network. My name is Mike Sevilla. Hey, actually over the weekend here, the press actually talked about family medicine, primary care, and why we are the anchor of healthcare here in the United States. I was up watching the news last night and saw this interesting story from the CBS Evening News. And the title of this, Family Care Doctors Are in High Demand. Why did they just say family practice doctors, family medicine doctors? Why did they say family care doctors? I have no idea. Here's this short report from the CBS Evening News from Saturday, February 19, 2012.
The federal government this week awarded $9.1 million to medical students in 30 states and the District of Columbia. The recipients will serve as primary care doctors. As Whit Johnson reports, fewer and fewer medical students can afford to become family doctors at a time of growing need.
So I really recommend...
With a looming shortage of family doctors, medical students like Sade Oluwadeji are in high demand.
It's very gratifying, I have to say.
In her fourth year at Howard University's medical school, Oluwadeji says she's committed to becoming a primary care physician.
I really love the fact that with primary care, your focus is on the whole patient.
But she's among only 1 in 5 medical students opting for primary over specialty care, students critical for the success of President Obama's Affordable Care Act. Under the law, 32 million people without insurance are supposed to be covered by 2014. Combine that with 78 million aging baby boomers, and there just won't be enough doctors to go around. Dr. Matthew Mintz of George Washington University School of Medicine.
The details about how we're going to provide care for those individuals, as well as improve the care of everybody else, is not really explicitly spelled out in the Affordable Care Act.
Projections show the supply for physicians will fall short by 91,000 in just 8 years. That's because, says Dr. Mintz, it all comes down to pay.
When you're coming out with $160,000 to $200,000 in debt, how much you're going to make as a doctor is really important.
Students in family medicine can expect to earn, on average, less than $210,000 per year, half of what a specialist would make in a more lucrative field. And that carries a stigma for those considering primary care, says medical student Seth Rosenblatt.
A lot of students don't see them as kind of the most respected doctors just because they are not as well paid. So a lot of people are hesitant to go into the field because of that stereotype.
My hope is just to be the very best primary care physician that I can be and see where that takes me.
And through incentives and scholarships, some announced just this week, the White House is hoping others will choose the same path. Whit Johnson, CBS News, Washington.
So there you go, kids. Hey, family docs are going to be the backbone of healthcare in this country. And I have to tell you, that report saying that family docs on average make less than $200,000 a year, let me tell you, that must be definitely regionally dependent because I don't come close to that. Or maybe I need people to negotiate my contract for me. Because I'm like, really? People make that much? I'm like, oh man, come on. Not that I'm whining. No, I'm not whining. But, it is a real concern that has been brought up in the past, especially, going all the way back to the last century when I was a medical student. That's right. When it comes to medical student debt, in addition to your college debt, and like, hey, you're going to make this amount when you're a specialist, you're going to make this amount when you're a primary care doctor, you do the math. And also they bring up this whole thing about prestige, prestige is tied to, pay and how much, all that kind of stuff. All that is, that are things that I hear from medical students when they come to my office. That is not anything that is really measurable. That's just kind of a lot of rumor out there when people talk about that stuff. So it's real. It's real. I'm glad that they're addressing that and bringing that stuff up. Our good friend Dr. Glenn Stream, from the president of the American Academy of Family Physicians, put on his AAFP president Facebook page today. He said this: excellent segment on CBS Evening News regarding primary care physician shortage. The producer made contact with AAFP about having the AAFP president interviewed. They ultimately decided to interview medical students who did an excellent job of telling their stories to discuss the issues. Thank you to CBS News for their interest in increasing public knowledge of the issues of family medicine. I did appreciate that they talked to medical students, but there was a doctor in there. Who that was, I have no idea. But he still had some interesting stuff as well. And you also may remember, I've talked about on this show before, Andy Rooney from the 60 Minutes program from November 11, 2010, also had a commentary about family doctors. Here is his short commentary.
There's a lot in the newspapers these days about health care reform, but I think they ought to be more specific and talk about something we all need: one all-purpose doctor. There's just no doubt we have an acute shortage of what we used to call family physicians. We need more medical schools that graduate doctors who specialize in everything and nothing, the whole body, not just one part of it. The practice of medicine has become too specialized, I think. Several years ago, I had surgery on my right wrist. The doctor was very good. 2 years later, my left hand started to hurt, so I went back to the doctor, but I found out he only worked on right wrists. I mean, you talk about specializing. We all need a doctor who give us a complete physical checkup for everything: kidney stones, cancer, lung problems, eyesight, even our hearing. They're all part of our one body. A good friend of mine whose wife had a hip replacement was having trouble with a knee he hurt years ago, and he decided he might need a knee replacement. I asked if he was going to his wife's orthopedic surgeon. No, my friend said, in a way that suggested I was dumb for asking. He doesn't do knees. Well, pardon me.
Well, there you go. And, I think the education of the American public still has to continue on what family doctors actually do. I mean, I know it's dependent upon your region and upon the practice, but I ran into a couple of patients this week in my own practice, in our own office, in our own community, saying, hey, I didn't know that you see kids. I didn't know that you see newborns. I said, sure we do. Be happy to see your child, see your newborn. Keep us in mind. We take care of the whole family here. And I think that is part of what needs to happen. I should be doing more of that on my blog, more of that on this podcast, on this show, as far as defining and redefining, what family doctors are. We are not just, people that just refer people to specialists. We care for patients. We take care of continuity of care. We take care of people from, cradle to grave, that essential, buzz phrase, that is used also in family medicine circles. But I think the education of that needs to continue, even in my own town, even in my own hospital, even with my own patients. I have to continue with the education and saying, hey, what is our scope of practice? What do we do in the office? Yes, our practice, we go to the hospital, we go to nursing homes, we see newborns, we see patients in the intensive care unit, we do, some procedures in our office, we do, some testing in our office. You don't have to go to the hospital. Those are things that we have to continue to educate the public about, because, we are the doctors that, patients should think of first, for their medical needs. So I appreciate, the press, covering that, and I hope to cover more of those type of stories here on the show and on the blog, to continue the education of the American public on family medicine. Let me take a quick break here. And after the break, I'll talk about Congress. Yes, they chickened out this week again, giving a short-term Band-Aid fix to the Medicare payment plan, the Sustainable Growth Rate, or SGR, or DocFix, or whatever you want to talk about. We'll talk about what the professional organizations had to say on this fix here coming up right after this. My name is Mike Sevilla. This is the Family Medicine Rocks podcast on a Sunday night here on the Blog Talk Radio Network. We'll be right back.